mission. Chalk in hand, he's on a mission, shaping dreams with precision.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, we're going to look at a news report which says that many Scottish people will be spending Christmas alone. Quite a dramatic headline, but it perhaps doesn't really reflect what we are all thinking. Let's go over and have a look now. And here it is. It says here, it'll be lonely this Christmas. And I'm just going to make this a full screen to see whether it makes it bigger for you. Let me just try to, oh, it seems I can't enlarge that. Well, let me just bring it up a little bit. Hopefully you can see this. It says, it'll be lonely this Christmas. Around 130,000 adults in Scotland will spend Christmas Day alone, shock figures reveal. The findings come from a new Salvation Army survey commissioned to highlight the growing numbers living and even dying on their own. All right, then, we'll have a little look at that in a minute, just to see what they're trying to say. This is from the Daily Records. Chris Rea is also dead. There he is. Right, let's see. So 130,000 Scots will spend 25th on their own. Why is that an issue? I mean, we're all getting older. I have to say that if I didn't, if I wasn't married, I also would be alone. So I don't see the big deal here. I think what the problem is, it's such a stark contrast from the way we used to be. In the old days, I can remember my grandparents organizing the party of all parties where the whole family descended upon my grandparents' house. And it was a lovely time, very nice, but those days are gone. Grandparents aren't there, and we now live in a global community rather than a local one. So I really don't see why this is shocking. I mean, there's always been people alone at Christmas, and surely it's not such a big thing. There's what, 6 million Scottish people? Well, 6 million people living in Scotland. So 130,000 is what, less than a quarter? My mathematics isn't very good, I'm afraid. But my point is this: what are they trying to say? I've spent many Christmases alone when I've been away, traveling, away from home. Yeah, it makes you feel sad, but it's a fact of life. As you get older, there aren't so many people around to spend Christmas with anyway. So it says here, turn to page 4. So let's go to page 4. There we are, page 4. Right, it says here, Sally Army reaches out to the vulnerable. That's the Salvation Army. That's a church here which does lots of work with lonely people. And it says here, the learning disabilities team at the Salvation Army in Kobani, Ayrshire, with personalized cards. Well, Kobani is unemployment hotspot. Apparently, more people become bankrupt there than anywhere else in the country. And I don't think it's representative of the whole country, but let's see what it says. It says, Cards with a Caring Touch. A group of adults with learning disabilities are bringing festive cheer to people who would otherwise be alone on Christmas Day. The team, part of the Salvation Army's George Stephen Community Hub in Kobani in Ayrshire, Scotland, have spent the past few weeks designing and making gifts for every person attending the charity's annual Christmas Day meal this year. The Salvation Army's George Stephen Community Hub. I remember him. George Stephen. Yeah, interesting fellow. Right, let's go on. It says here 130,000 spending Christmas alone. And it has a picture of a black woman here. What's she doing there? Okay, she's a mental health advisor, mental health volunteer, Menesia. This is the continuation of the story from the first page. Okay, so we'll start. It says here across Scotland, nearly 1 in 10 or 129,933 people had gone more than a month without a face-to-face conversation with another adult. The survey of 4,384 UK adults was weighed to be nationally representative. Okay, so a bit of an assumption happening there. And it goes on to say traditionally the elderly are more prone to being alone. However, some of those surveyed were in their early 40s. Yeah, it's the way we live now. Not everyone wants people at Christmas time. This isn't a bad thing. I have to say, my mental health does drop at Christmas time, but I don't think it's because I'm lonely. I think it's because the amount of pressure the media put on us. You will be happy, you will be with people, you will cook, you will enjoy. That kind of stuff I really, really don't like. So that's what stresses me out. But the actual day, yeah, I'm glad to see it passing, but it's not that bad. I mean, I think as an adult, most of my Christmases have been alone, um, up until around 10 years ago, of course, after I married. But anyway, it says here, um, traditionally, the elderly are more prone to being alone. However, some of those surveyed were in their early 40s. The total numbers across the UK expecting to be alone at Christmas was 1.8 million. That's not a lot. I mean, 9 million people live in London alone. 6 million live in Scotland. That's right. There's more people who live in London than the whole of Scotland. So I don't really see this as a high number. I don't really see the point of this story. It says here, just reading on, the Salvation Army's network of 600 churches and community centres provides support, advice, and companionship. Well, yes and no. It also offers a befriending service for those on their own to find someone to share Christmas Day with. Yeah, but some people just like to be alone, and that is perfectly okay. Things are so bad here that our government, they appointed a loneliness minister, and that person was getting paid so much and not doing very much that they finally got rid of her. So they are aware there's a problem of people living alone and not mixing. But there are other ways of dealing with this, not waiting till Christmas. What they should really do is set up some local hubs which people can use, and also online. I think more and more of us would prefer to meet with others online. Church isolation specialist. There's a job, huh? Church isolation specialist. Andrew Weilman said, isolation is the main reason for turning to the Salvation Army for help. And the need for belonging is especially strong at Christmas. Okay, yeah, I understand that. Even for me, trying to fit into something is important. I went to visit a church on Sunday. It was completely miserable. It was awful, but at least I went and I did feel part of something which helped me, get into the spirits of Christmas, I suppose. let's just read the next column here. Menissia, okay, this is the black woman. I'm on the third column, by the way, in case you need to see. Let me move my mouse. There we are. Menissia, a former nurse and UN coordinator. Menissia, a former nurse and UN coordinator from Namibia, arrived here. I guess that means Scotland. In 2020, she said, in my first year, I did try to make the other people in my accommodation gifts just to surprise them. People enjoyed them, but it was hard to create a real sense of harmony when everyone is so different. Menissia, she tells us, let's see, she volunteers with the Mental Health Foundation, and she says, sometimes you just need to reach out for support. A lot of people are lonely. That's true. That is true, certainly. I wouldn't mind someone knocking on the door at Christmas time that I knew. I mean, I don't want Menissia knocking on my door. No offense, Menissia, but I don't know who you are. But I wouldn't mind an old friend appearing. Anyone that's not family, frankly. The survey findings follow research published in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine, estimating 8,000 to 9,000 people per year in the UK lie dead for a week or more before being discovered. Yeah, if you die, your cat will eat you to survive. Did you know that? Yeah, they have a dark side. The Christian group is laying on special events across the country to help those left alone over the festive period. And this report, in part, was from the church isolation specialist. That doesn't make any sense to me. People don't want church at Christmas time. They just want someone to talk to. Strange story, I have to say. It's kind of framed in a way which is saying, well, it's not okay to be alone at Christmas time, but whether you like it or not, that's the way we are. British people are very strange with this kind of thing. You know, we are not very social anyway. So if we want to be alone, just leave us alone. This is a much bigger problem than Christmas. This isn't just a Christmas problem. So you can't just look at it in terms of Christmas dinner. This problem needs to be looked at on a much wider scale about how we live, who our neighbors are, the whole nature of capitalism and money. Some people are rich, some people are poor. There's something much deeper here than Christmas. So, yeah, maybe it's true, but yeah, Christmas is not the time to deal with this. I think just reaching out the hand of friendship. You know, I was in the street the other day. Someone said hello to me. I almost fell down. I was so shocked. I was like, wow, that person actually said hello. I was amazed. So it's the way we live. I have to say, I do try. I do try to reach out a little bit more at Christmas time. I'm having a guest, Polish woman. She's coming over on the 26th. I mean, she's not lonely. She has her own family, which is why she's not coming on the 25th. But yeah, I just try to, help make people feel at home. We don't just sit back and say, oh, help me, I'm lonely. We have to participate, which is something I mentioned earlier. Participation really is the key to anything we want to do. So there we are. That's the story about 130,000 people spending Christmas alone. That's not even a quarter of the Scottish population. And I'm more disturbed by this Salvation Army's George Stephen Community Hub. Yeah, I remember George Stephen, a lovely man. And when he died, the church created a center and named it in his honor It's called the George Stephen Community Hub. What's most worrying about this story is that I remember George Stephen. Am I that old? Really? Oh dear. Well, anyway, when I was a boy, he was a friend of, I think he was a friend of my grandparents. I'll need to ask someone about that. I don't have any relatives left to ask, but I'm sure during the war, he was raised in parts by my great grandparents. That's what I remember about him. But I'm still very disturbed that this is even a story. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being lonely, but there's a big difference between being lonely and being alone. And I think in the northern parts of the UK and the more rural part of England as well, there is a very big problem with isolation and the lack of available projects. But if there's one thing I really don't like, it's people telling me that I should be with others. It's a very difficult thing to handle this. Don't put me in a room of old people and ask me to play cards with them. That's not going to happen, you know? But yeah, that's the way it is. So whatever you're doing this Christmas, have a lovely time. I'll be back tomorrow doing some Christmas readings. I don't know what I'm going to read yet, but I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Just some positive things, I suppose. Enjoy your day ahead if you are indeed starting your day, and see you tomorrow if it's the afternoon or evening. So catch you all soon. Bye.